Hi y'all, welcome to More Please, the show all about sequels and remakes. I want to start this series because it seems like the saturation of follow-up films has given the concept a bad reputation. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there aren't a lot of bad sequels and remakes. These types of movies are hard to get right. But sometimes a great team of filmmakers will do just that. Personally, it feels like most people just completely ignore these gems and start immediately hating on the concept of a sequel or reboot before a trailer for that movie even comes around. The point I want to make with this series is that a sequel does not have to be a crappy rehash. A reboot does not have to be a stupid money grab. And I hope that Hollywood begins to try and replicate the greatness of these few films defying the stereotype. Because that's what I really want more of. I want more great sequels and remakes. Without further ado, let's get started. Guardians of the Galaxy is a 2014 film written and directed by James Gunn, who at the time had only directed two other feature films. 2010's Super, which is a reflection on Modern Thought disguised as a dark comedy with Rainn Wilson and Juno, Ellen Page, and 2006's Slither, which I refuse to see on the premise of the poster alone. It was honestly kind of a shocker that he was picked for a Marvel film with this kind of a background, especially a Marvel film where there was basically no pre-established audience. Not even the comic community had really paid any attention to the Guardians, and now the superhero-ish team with a literal raccoon was going to get a feature by some dude who had only ever made indie stuff? It was a crazy strategy, it was a crazy movie, but it was one that paid off in spades to the sweet, sweet sound of $771 million worldwide. It's no wonder that this same strategy is now being replicated with other Marvel films like Jon Watts for Spider-Man Homecoming and Taika Waititi for Thor Ragnarok. Let's get back to the actual film. The cinematography in Guardians of the Galaxy is an unbelievable splash of color and whimsy. The soundtrack is the best in the MCU, and the actors nail every single scene.
I have a plan!
Cease your yammering and relieve us from this irksome confinement.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with the walking thesaurus on that one.
Do not ever call me a thesaurus.
It's just a metaphor, dude.
His people are completely literal. Metaphors are gonna go over his head.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
I'm gonna die surrounded by the biggest idiots in the galaxy.
Extra props to James Gunn for the writing. He handed out arcs in this script like Aunt Betty hands out 6-month-old butterscotch, frequently and to everyone. Not a single character is filler in this movie. They all matter to the plot, and they all develop into something more complex than initially shown. Even John C. Reilly, who only has like 2 minutes of screen time, changes from this...
What a bunch of a-holes. Transport all four to the kiln.
...to this. What I love most about Guardians isn't any of that. It's the main theme of friendship. Each character has their own form of brokenness that they have to subvert in order to come together and defeat Scary Guy McBlueface. Peter's got his mother's death, Rocket and Groot have lost their species, Drax has the slaughter of his family, and Gamora has her parents' murder. As the film progresses, these very different individuals learn to appreciate each other as friends, and although they cannot heal the pain experienced in the past, the Guardians come together to form an incredibly powerful bond despite their pain. A bond that not only defeats evil, but fundamentally changes how they process that pain and relate to the world. I think that's a wonderful sentiment, and a conflict that I personally identify with. It's hard forming trusting friendships that can subvert obstacles, especially when you have your own things that are so easy to keep locked up inside. But the Guardians serve as a beautiful representation that overcoming the anxiety of trusting people can be worth your while. So yeah, all that to say, I think the first Guardians is rad, and like most fans, I was nervous about where the second film would go. Even after hearing James Gunn would return as a writer-director, I didn't have a lot of confidence in Volume 2. Just look at the Iron Man films. Both the original and the sequel were directed by Jon Favreau, but while Iron Man was clear-cut, original, and super fun, Iron Man 2 felt cluttered, forgettable, and had Sparky Whip Man. Other Marvel films like Thor 2 and Age of Ultron were also just kind of weak, and I really didn't want the Guardians of the Galaxy to fall into this superhero pattern where the first film kills it out the gate and the second is just okay. But I can honestly say I really liked Volume 2. The cinematography is still great, the soundtrack still comes in at just the right moments, and the cast just wrecks shop again.
What is he doing?
He said the skin is too thick to be pierced from the outside, so
That doesn't make any sense.
I tried telling
Skin
him
is
that!
the same level of thickness from the inside as from the outside.
I realize that!
I also just want to celebrate the supporting cast for this film because I think they might even be better than some of the leads a lot of the time. Like, I think Yondu might be my favorite part of Guardians of the Galaxy. Michael Rooker has to hit so many different emotions with a really weird character, and he does so effortlessly. We see Yondu as a king amongst thieves, a dejected outcast, a wise loner, and lastly we see him as a vulnerable father, a character shift that came totally out of left field for me, but worked. And when he dies, it means something, not just to the characters, but to me. And that's a feat. I mean, who knew the magic mohawk dude from the first film would transform to this character that would make people cry? And personally, it felt like every arc in this movie was just as surprising. Gunn takes the smallest tidbit from the first film and gives it this sort of wacky continuation that just works. Baby Groot, for example. It seems like a stupid idea, right? Like, let's take this character who basically summed up our entire movie and sacrifices himself during the climax, bring him back to life, but as a baby, and hope that it doesn't undermine anything we've previously done with the character. That's, like, crazy. It's a crazy concept, but it's executed so well that we don't even think about how insane the premise of a character like Baby Groot is. We just accept that Big Tree Boy is now Small Tree Boy, and we cheer him on as he makes the same sort of naive mistakes that the normal Groot would. That's incredible, and you know what else is incredible? The structure of this film. It's freaking amazeballs. I mean, it basically takes the entire structure of the original movie and does everything backwards and then forwards again in the third act. The first Guardians opens with Peter's origin story and then slowly pushes him towards the other members of the group. They become friends and are able to defeat a common enemy because of their connectedness. In the sequel, we start everyone off as friends, defeating a common enemy, but instead of being connected, they're more fragmented as a group, and Rocket and Groot split the party up, while Peter slowly pushes himself further and further away because of his origins. But in the third act, things fall back into place, just like they did in the first film. Peter realizes the true origins of his father, who pushes him back into the group, and through friendship, the Guardians are able to defeat their common enemy. But let's get into the meat of why I think this is not just a great movie, but a great sequel. Volume 2 takes the first Guardians' main theme, friendship, and expands it naturally to speak about the concept of family.
I don't have friends. I got family.
It's more of a Fast and the Furious film in this sense. Both Volume 2 and the Furious franchise take a ragtag group of miscreants and make them into powers for good through friendships. But soon all these people choose to be more than friends. They choose to trust and depend on each other no matter what the obstacle is. And that's what families do. Good families choose each other even when it's difficult. It's still a film about overcoming pain and choosing to trust people, but it's a different kind of trust, one that goes above and beyond a simple friendship. Also, both have Vin Diesel.
I am Groot.
So many sequels don't have the bravery or finesse to take a theme further and tell a story that is completely new but still very similar. Instead, they capitalize on what they already know and basically make the same movie in a different setting. But Volume 2 grows its characters naturally while making a heartwarming point that even if your biological family sucks, you can still have a family. One that loves and respects you, even when it's hard to do so. And that's why I think it's a great sequel. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my first video. I plan to upload every single month on the 22nd, so subscribe for that if you're down. And if you can't wait till then, I'll be posting updates on my Twitter of just random stuff. I'll pick the theme for the next episode and yada yada yada. I leave you with Robert Downey Jr. doing an impression of Jeff Goldblum in The Fly.
I'm crazy about movies. That's why I wanted to become an actor. That's why I could cry watching Chud, Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers. I buy into movies. I love it. I see The Fly. I don't care if that's Jeff Goldblum going, you know, I'm in it. They're transporting, flies dying. I mean, I'm a sucker for this stuff.